Hi there. We are on day 21 of our Through the New Testament in 1 Year. Today we're doing the first half of Matthew 14. Okay? And it won't take long, See, it's just this one part right here. Okay. The death of John the Baptist. At that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard about the fame of Jesus, and he said to his servants, "This is John the Baptist. He has been raised from the dead. Why is it? Why? That is why these miraculous powers are at work in him." For Herod had seized John and bound him and put him in prison for the sake of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, because John had been saying to him, "It is not lawful for you to have her." Right? He stole her. And though he wanted to put him, and though he wanted to put him to death, he feared the people because they held him to be a prophet. But when Herod's birthday came, the daughter of Herodias danced before the company and pleased Herod, so that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she might ask. Prompted by her mother, she said, "Give me the head of John the Baptist here on a platter." And the king was sorry, but because of his oaths and his guests, he commanded it to be given. He sent and had John beheaded in the prison, and his head was brought on a platter and given to the girl, and she brought it to her mother. And his disciples came and took the body and buried it, and they went and told Jesus. Not going to go well for him in the end, is it? Jesus feeds 5,000. Now when Jesus heard this, he withdrew from there in a boat to a desolate place by himself. But when the crowds heard it, they followed him on foot from the towns. When he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion on them and healed their sick. Great crowd, right? Now when it was evening, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a desolate place, and the day is now over. Send the crowds away to go to the villages and buy food for themselves." But Jesus said, "They need not go away. You give them something to eat." They said to him, "We have only 5 loaves here and 2 fish. And he said, "Bring them here to me." Then he ordered the crowds to sit down on the grass, and taking the 5 loaves and 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and said a blessing. Then he broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples. The disciples gave them to the crowd, and they all ate and were satisfied. And they took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces left over. And those who ate were about 5,000 men, besides the women and the children. So you're probably talking closer to, 13,000 or 14,000 people. That's a huge crowd, right? With 5 loaves and 2 fish. Amazing, huh? That's amazing. Shall we take a look at it over in the Geneva, since we got plenty of time today? Okay. Now this is the 1599 Geneva Bible, okay? It's the one that our forefathers used. Okay. Let's just look at the footnotes, right? Here is in John an example of an invincible courage which all faithful ministers of God's word ought to follow. In Herod, an example of tyrannous vanity, pride, and cruelty, and to be short of a courtly conscience, and of their insufferable slavery, which have once given themselves over to pleasures. In Herodias and her daughter, an example of whore-like wantonness and woman-like cruelty. Right. His wife, which is not his wife, it was his brother's wife that he stole from her, and his daughter, which would have made that his niece, right? He was lusting after her. Horrible. John the Baptist risen from the dead, and therefore great works are wrought by him. By works he meaneth their force and power here, whereby works are wrought, and not the works as in seen oft before. Right. He killed John the Baptist, saying he was afraid he was raising from the dead and was doing even greater miracles. Right? He should have been afraid. Right. Them in prison. Whoop. When Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod. There were 3 Herods. The first of them was Antipater's son, who was also called Ascalonius, in whose reign Christ was born. And he it was that caused the children to be slain. Right. The second was called Antipas, Harris Antipas, Magnus' son, whose mother's name was Malthus or Martaka. And this was called Tetrarch by reason of enlarging his dominion when Archelaus was banished to Vienna in France. The third was Agrippa, Magnus' nephew by Aristobulus. He it was that slew James. Right? Lots of Herods, right? It's kind of like Caesar. Crazy. Crazy. Lots of Herods. Can you keep them straight? I can't always. So this is the second Herod. The first Herod is the one that slew all the children when Christ was born. That's terrible, terrible. Makes me sick to think about. And the second Herod is the one. Jesus was obviously 30 now, right? Promised her an oath, giving him for an instruction to her mother. And she, before being instructed of her mother, said, "Give me here John Baptist's head on a platter." The king was sorry. Head is brought in a platter, okay, and his disciples came and took the body and buried it and went and told Jesus. Jesus said, "That hence the ship, the deserted place." Yeah, see, he probably wanted to more for. That was just, John was his cousin, okay? And about 6 months older than him. Christ refilleth a great multitude with 5 loaves and 2 little fishes, showing thereby that they shall want nothing, which lay all things aside and seek the kingdom of heaven. Right. If you seek the kingdom of heaven, you will want for nothing else. Pretty good, huh? Okay. Just looking for notes here. 5 loaves, 2 fishes. Looked up to heaven and blessed them. Yeah, and that's all the notes in there. Huh? You can read them better in here, right? There were 3 Herods. First of them is Antipater's son, First Herod caused the children to be slain when Christ was born. The second Herod Antipas, heard that name, right? Magnus' son, whose mother's name was Malthus and Monica, and this was called a Tetrarch by reason of enlarging his domain when Archelaus was banished. The third was Agrippa, Magnus, his nephew by Antipas, and it was he that slew James. Not John, James. Okay. So, there you have it. Once again, under 10 minutes. These will get longer eventually as we get deeper in the word and do more cross-referencing. And look, this is the story, right? History in the making. So, there you have it. There's a like for think about it. Catch up on anything you may miss. There's still time to catch up. They're not real long. So, this is day 21. We started on January 1st. So, until tomorrow, we'll continue with the rest of Matthew 14. See you then.